Good morning. Today is April 20th, 420, and it's almost 9 a.m. We're going to take a look at the markets this morning. Thanks for joining me. And I hope you had a great weekend. So over the weekend, there was a bit of news, a bit of a kerfuffle, you might say, in the Strait of Hormuz. That was causing some consternation among the nations. And, so we have the markets settling a little bit this morning. The Russell is down about 0.75% as well. The Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P are off about 0.33%. So let's take a look at what else is happening. The Canadian core price index is 2.4% up. The forecast was 2.6, and the previous one was 1.8. So it's actually a good sign, I guess, for their prices and inflation in Canada. But let's see. Oil going back up tonight won't help anything. So oil picked up overnight about 5%. It was higher initially when the market opened Sunday evening. It backed off a little bit, but it's at about $87 a barrel. We had dropped below $80 a barrel on Friday. Now, it's interesting, Kuwait declared a force majeure, which allows them to break their contracts, and they can then sell oil to anyone for their whatever price they want. They don't have to hold their issues. Okay. I don't have any major speakers happening today, so that looks like it's a good thing. And then we can get into the rest of the market. I want to take a look at some of the positions that we've been following, and then let's review a few positions that I think we should be in, and let's work on like maybe creating a watch list, or maybe even a trading portfolio of opportunities, because I don't think we're in a downturn on the economy. I think we have hiccups now, but the economy is still kind of steaming forward. I did pick up the VIX on Friday, and the VIX is up. You could see about 9% since Friday. So it's not that we're out of the woods, but even the level that it jumped to, it went from 17.5 to about 20, is not indicative of like a major slide or anything like that. So usually see that like when the VIX hits 30 or so, it's crazy. Everything is going down. That's when you're supposed to buy. So that's when you have to have your cash ready so you can buy. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Bitcoin basically held pretty well over the weekend. Now, remember Friday, we did hit like 70, almost 79,000 on Bitcoin. We have since backed off to about 75,000, which it's good. It means that we did hold our level of 74,000, which was very important for us to maintain that level. It held, and it's back up a little bit, back to 75,000. So that's a good sign for Bitcoin. Okay, let's take a look at some other things for us to look at. So I'm trying something new today. I'm going to layer in some of our effects, and then hopefully we can see. So I have a scanner up, and there we go. All right, cool. So now you can see my scanner, and here are some symbols that I've been adding to a short-term watch list. I think, I want to say let's build a portfolio that will enable us to really accelerate our growth in trades. So some of the ones that we've been looking at recently include Apple, AMD, ASTS, Bloom Energy, COHR, Coin, CoreWeave, Google, IonQ, IREN, LEU, LITE, Micron, Nike, NVIDIA, ONDS, QS, SMR, SNDK, and Tesla. If any of these names are not familiar to you, we can always review them in a little more detail later. Now, the other thing I wanted to do is let's bring on this chart and see if we can't bring that chart up and maybe put the two charts, the two things like side by side. So now I have these two things side by side, and hopefully you can see the big deal on the left, the chart on the right. I don't know. How does that work? You see that well? I hope you can. Or are these overlaid? It's a little confusing because there's the app in the background that layers things, and then there's my Windows screens that look different. And it's kind of, let's see, scanner list, big chart. Let's see if if I move. Ah, does that help you? Maybe that, yeah, mostly because I can't see anything here. So there we go. Sorry for making you dizzy, and hopefully you can see charts, and we can now go side by side and go down this list. So this is the daily chart, and we're going to take a look at Apple. Apple is at the top of this channel on the daily chart. I would say that we should see 280 on Apple. We're at 270 right now, but because my chart has Apple in a little bit of a downtrend, at the near moment on the daily, we're coming up to a resistance at 272 on Apple. So I would say, let's say if we see Apple go above 272, it might be a continuation to 280, but we do have a very extreme angle so far going up on Apple. It might take a little bit of a breather soon. So you could see on the 4-hour chart, we're a little bit shy of the top. But long term, I think Apple, will be good and will continue. Let's take a look at some other ones. AMD. AMD like shot the moon. It's up another dollar overnight. They're at 280, and they busted through where I thought they would go. ASTS Mobile, they're down significantly overnight. They're at 74. They pulled back. I'm not really sure if I don't have a news thing yet. I can take a look. But ASTS Mobile they're a space company, and they're coming into like a buy range, I would say. So if you were going to want to add to your position, this would be a place to do it. Let's see if we get any news on what happened with ASTS. It's ridiculous. It fell 14%, it says, because they missed a planned orbit for satellite. Let's see, what does that mean? But okay, so they're down 14% overnight. They might be oversold. Excuse me. Ooh. So the cost of the satellite is going to be recovered under the company's insurance policy. So that should not be too big of a deal. All right, maybe it's a good time to actually buy ASTS. Now, interestingly enough, Seeking Alpha is adding a new pick to their list, Nexa Natural Reserves. Look at this. This blew up. It's their daily chart. They're like way up here. They're at $16. They were trading at $9 in March. I don't know. That's just sort of steep. But you know what I'll do? I'm going to add it to my watch list, and I'm going to poke in over here just a little bit closer to the 15-minute chart. And you can see since basically Wednesday, they've been going sideways. I just want to compare that to something like an MP material. MP has been on a tear up as well. Freeport McMoran, which is copper, they've been up. ERO is copper. They're down a little bit. It looks like they're falling for whatever reason. They had a big pop in price, but they're giving back a little bit. It looks like, and that might be tied to the price of copper, but I'm not 100% sure. You could see that even Freeport McMoran's a little bit off today, so it's possible that it's just the price of copper's pulling that down. Gold is off a few dollars, so it looks like basically since Wednesday a lot of these metals have been going sideways, and that might be an interesting play. I really was thinking about this USAR. I had wanted to buy more at like 12, and it popped, and it's just continuing. It's at 2170 now, and I think it's going to continue running. So if you see any pullback on USAR, or you just want to add USAR, I would add it here. I don't think it's an issue, and it's a little bit less expensive than Nexa, so it's another. I mean, not necessarily expensive, but it's. I don't know. I've been trading USAR. Nexa is a little less expensive, but it's a diversified metal, so it gives you a little bit of wider exposure. Another recent pick that they had was Constellum, but they also kind of like popped. Look at that, right? So they had this recommendation. I think when it came out, I think their recommendation came out at about 29, 28. It hit 31, pulled all the way back to 28 again, and now we're at 29 and a half. So if you wanted to add CSTM, that's another Seeking Alpha pick, and also sort of interesting. Bloom Energy, that's been bantered about a lot because of their contracts with was it Google, Oracle? I don't know. They're providing energy to one of the IT companies. Anyway, they're at 205 Bloom Energy. They really had a massive jump. Our scanner picked it up when it was lower, and it came onto our list. But now it's pretty high, so I don't know about that. Good morning, Harley. COHR, Coherent. This is one of those light photonics companies, and they're off about $1 this morning. But look at this chart; it's tremendous. I'm not buying it here just because it's already run up. Coinbase is on its recovery. It's down a little bit overnight. It's down to 202 because Bitcoin did pull back a little bit overnight, but it does look like it's on a trend for a recovery, and it's at 202. So you could say if crypto really does come back, you could see this double, right? So Coinbase, this is an interesting buy. I would prefer to get it lower, but it is making its recovery. Let's look at CoreWeave. So CoreWeave is in the process of its recovery. It pulled back $1 overnight to $1.15. We were as high as $1.20. We reset to a new level of support down at about 110. So anywhere closer to 110, I like to buy it. 114 if you want to buy some CoreWeave. It's still a good buy. Google's on its way up, and you can look at this chart and you can see that like cup and handle forming, so that big cup, and then we've got some sort of handle coming off to the side. We have earnings coming up, so you may want to just wait until after earnings to see what happens, but and then play it from there. There's no urgency. If it's going to go up, it'll go up, and then you can continue. If not, if it does pull back, the cat's going crazy. So Google's one to keep an eye on. Speaking of ION, there's IonQ, and IonQ is a quantum. I think it's one of the quantum stocks, and they are. Let's see, they're at 45. They're off $1 overnight. I would prefer to get in closer to the 40 level. I think that's a nice support area. But this should have continuation going forward. Iran, they're at 47. They're also a crypto related, so we could look for them to continue on once crypto continues its track. Centrus Energy, LEU, it pulled back to 200. I like them. The support's about 177, I would say, and so I'm not ready to buy them here at 200. A little bit will depend. I'd like to see a little pullback before it continues. But Centrus Energy, they're one of the only uranium, or they're only the only uranium enricher in the United States, or something like that. Okay, LITE, they're down also about $10 overnight. Another photonics company. You can look at this trend. It's ripping. So I would love to get them, closer to the 675 level. Is it going to happen? I don't know. It depends on if we have like a major pullback, but you could continue to buy, right? You could buy little lots of it. If it pulls back, I'd like to see it pull back like 10% before I would get in. I don't know. I have a hard time buying tops, but it is trying to break out and go up and over. So 887 pulls us back to about here on the chart, and it's not a significant pullback. It's not even to the trend line. So, you take that with a bit of caution. We might get pulled back to the trend line, and then from there, it can continue going. So I'm not buying it yet. Micron is a monster. It's up $1 overnight. Micron is one of the key holders to the whole AI situation that's going on, and you can imagine that memory is just very, very important if you're trying to make anything in the computer world. We already looked at Nexa. Nike is at 46. They're off a few cents overnight. They had pulled back really hard this year, and you could see that like they're only at about 10% of their annual range. I mean, they really pulled back hard. So they came back all the way down to like 43. They're at 46 now. They should be higher. I think you can buy Nike and hold it long term here. Nvidia is a little bit scary. It's up at 200. It was at 201. Just because the market's going sideways, I don't think Nvidia is going anywhere right now. ONDS pulled back to below $10. I think if you could buy some around $9.40, that's a pretty good buy, and then look for it to continue going up. So you could put an order in for $9.40, buy like 1,000 shares. You got the money. I know you do. You're rich. Just kidding. Look, it's a $10 stock. You can buy 100 of them for $1,000, and then if you gain 50%, you just made $500. So you could say thank you to Uncle Elliot and buy me a coffee. As a reminder, if you have not done so already, please like, subscribe, drop a comment, or share this video with somebody else, and I'd greatly appreciate that. Another one to look at is QuantumScape. QuantumScape is they actually have a lot of it looks like government contracts, but anyway, their price target's around $10, which is they're at $7 now, so we could see a rise of about that 30%. Let's just take a look a little closer on the 1 hour just to see what their chart looks like. I like that, right? So we were on a good uptrend. We kind of pulled back to this trend line and support of around $7, and we at least have on the hourly chart, channels 2 and 3 are targeting around $8. So there is movement up. So you have at least a 10% move up on QuantumScape. So I would buy it here and then hold. Let's target $10, but we can add QuantumScape to our purchase list, and and that would be a thing. Okay, oops. Let me take a look at that. All right. Next. SMR. Let's take a look at SMR. So SMR, they make small scale nuclear reactors. On the hourly, they pull back a little bit to a support of around $12. Again, this looks pretty good long. Zooming out to the weekly, you can see we actually have a very strong chart. So that looks pretty good. I did fail in sending out the link earlier. I had prepared it. So I'm just hoping you guys remembered to join me. All right. So now I'm going to take a look at, let's look at SanDisk. SanDisk is going to be similar to Micron. They're up $2-3 overnight. They're on a super tear. Like to see them pull back before I would get in. They're just really, really strong right now. Again, Micron is up today as well. So you could see that Micron and SanDisk are both memory companies hitting this AI thing. They're really pounding up ahead. Now, Tesla, I think, is making a recovery that's nice, and that's pretty interesting. I'd like to see this recovery in Tesla continue. They crossed the value area gap that we had talked about. They're at the bottom of, well, they're not at the bottom of this value area anymore. They crossed all the way up. They're at 400, and I would say they're easily going to make that 450 number. So I'm holding a position in Tesla, and I'm long Tesla. So I think long term we're going to see this recover on Tesla. Let's zoom in now a little bit at the markets at 9:15 to see what's happening on the MES. So we're going to take a look at the S&P. Now, the S&P looks a little soft. We're off about 1/3%, like I said. And let's take some levels on the S&P and see what we can find for a trade for today. So on the day's trade today, we're going to look for levels at around 7,117 on the S&P. If we fall below that level, I would say that looks like a downtrend for the day. But, you know, anything's possible. We've been having these very much upward stair-stepping days, and you can see that. So I don't know that we're going to necessarily pull back anytime soon on the S&P, like significantly. But, okay, let's look at this 15-minute chart. We were at 71.86 on Friday, closed the market. It opened then at 7,100 for the support. It is now making its way back. It's crawling its way back to 71.40. And so we're still down 20 points from Friday. We're trying to make our way back. I think we can if the news will permit it. But you know, we saw that that crypto did pull back a little bit. So that might be indicative of what we're looking for today. Zoom. So I would say, look, if we hold above 71.35, let's say if we hold this level 71.35, there's a possibility for us to use that as a support and continue going back up, and then like targeting 71.71 for an initial target for the day on the long. On the short side, if we break below 71.15, we're heading to 70.70, right? So you could see pretty clearly on this chart, there are two places where the lines are pointing to. Either one is a possibility, meaning you want to be careful about like buying the open or selling the open, because you just don't know what direction things are going to go this morning until they settle out. And so that's how we have to play it. We have to play it so that we are flexible to the realities of the market, not what we have a preconceived notion that the market is going to do. We're reactive with a plan. We are not predicting the future. We are just reacting to circumstance. And that's what defines a better trader versus a gambler. So we have the NASDAQ is pulling back to this level of support of like 26,757. Right now we're at 26,768. So there is this level of support here around 26,750, something like that on the 15-minute chart. If we hold that, then I think we can continue back up. If not, if we break below 26,630, then we're like looking at a down day, and anywhere in between, that's just going to be the range of the day, and we're not going to trade this area because it is it's actually, just like too narrow of a range, right? So just gonna box that out, move this here and say, let's like try not to trade that range. I think that's gonna chop you up if you try to trade that. Let's take a look at SPY. If we're gonna trade SPY, that's the S&P. Again, we're gonna say if you fall below 705, it's a short day. If we can hold this level of 708, if we can hold 708, right, there's a possibility of us continuing to go back up. However, if we don't hold 708, we pull back. We don't want to trade, again, this range. This is going to be the like don't trade zone, okay? Because it's just, this is where we see all of the volume, right? You see that volume right there. So you don't want to get chopped up there. Here, it's going to go down. Here, it goes up. And that's the way you're going to play it. 708 positive. We stay above that level. You can hold and look for 711. 711, baby. Or we can look for shorts if it goes below there. Let's take a look at the Qs. 9:22, 8 minutes before the open, same picture. It's the same picture. Again, we've got a lot of support here at 644. We've got this target at 648. We have a high of 650. Not a very big range, and we just want to be cautious in this area. If we continue above, let's say 650, we have continuation long. If we go below 644, then I'm saying we're going to have a short day, and then I don't see positive things. But right now, we're okay. Let's go ahead and bring up the big board for a minute, and I just want to take a look and see what do we have else on the big board. So close out the scanner, close out that chart, and you can see the big board again behind me. All the symbols. So like these symbols up here are the Russell and the Dow, the NASDAQ. Those over there, that's going to be the metals all the way in that far corner. And the bottom, bottom. Yeah, that bottom. That's like oil, and I have over there natural gas and gold and stuff like that. Copper is off about 1% today. You can see that right there. It's funny. I feel like a newscaster, weatherman, with about the same amount of predictability as the weatherman, but or maybe better. So we're a half hour into our show. It's 9:24. The S&P, NASDAQ, Russell, Dow are all trying to reclaim earlier losses, and the VIX is kind of holding at 1885 at the moment. The tick didn't react yet. It's a little bit down. Natural gas is coming up overnight. It's to be expected with what's going on. Oil, again, it's continuing to give back just a little bit. It does look like gold and silver are trying to recover. They were higher last week. They're off about 1% to 2% today, and I think it'll continue. Let me see what else we have on this boards. I like. Do you guys like the new setup with the charts? Like one chart's kind of zoomed in, and then a watch list over here on the other side. Um, just curious to see what you guys think. Does it work for you? Want to make the show interesting and easy for you to absorb and enjoy. So let's see. Next, we have 5 minutes before the open. I've been following. Um, I've been following on Twitter, X now, a bunch of accounts, and let's just talk about some of the picks that they've been talking about. Now, it's very popular right now to be talking about photonics. Photonics is how we connect the computers and the networks and the internal circuits even of the computers together to transmit the information as fast as these processors can, right? So these processors are really, really tiny. They're moving like near light speed electrons around, and they need a way to move the data then from those chips to other areas fast. And there's nothing faster than light. So let's use light, and that's where photonics are coming into play. So you have a bunch of photonics companies all in different areas of photonics that are playing, and that's what you're going to see as far as those players in those spaces. Now, supporting that is going to be things like energy. So you're going to have power. So that's why we're looking at. Let me bring over. Actually, I didn't share this screen yet, so you won't be able to see it yet. So let me do that, so you can also enjoy. You can also enjoy what I'm looking at right now. Okay, so now here we go. We can see this is a nice little AI infrastructure image, and you can see laid out nicely. Nebius, CoreWeave, Iron, and Oracle. They're busy setting up your data centers, while you have these photonics companies that are working on the connectivity, and that includes AAOI and LITE. Then you have companies like Credo as well, and ALAB. Then you have the energy companies that are supplying the energies, and that's going to be Bloom Energy. They have the contract already. Oklo, EOSE is making battery, I think, technology. Oklo is nuclear. So you have these different companies providing energy. That's going to help that bottleneck, right? And then you've got these other companies like Coherent, and I'm not familiar yet with IQE, but I heard of AXTI as well. It's another name that's been bantered about, and I think it's a lower priced one yet. Like, they didn't run up as far as everybody else have. And you could see a lot of people are kind of talking about these same tickers, IREN, CIFR, Oklo, and Nebius. Everybody's talking about it. Question is, if everybody's talking about it, is it still hot, or did it run its length? VIAV is another one that's been added recently, and they are again work in the photonics area, connecting things. One that is not strictly a photonics play is Marvell, MRVL, and that actually does look like a good company that has more legs than just photonics. And if we pull up the chart on Marvell, let's go to the daily chart. You can see they really zoomed up, and they're continuing to dominate the market. They're at 147, almost 148. They're up $8 since the close last week. So while everybody else is failing, they're exceeding and continuing to go forward. So that's an interesting play. So when you see the markets pulling back and certain things are still rocketing, crazy. Oh, and that's the market just opening now. We'll take a look in a moment, but Rocket Lab, that's about landing on the moon, right? And we have and Fly, that's another good one. So here's another good list of things that we can look at. Again, critical materials like MP, aluminum, Alcoa. It's a great company. We need aluminum for just about everything to replace all the missiles. So I like Alcoa, by the way. And if I was going to look at Alcoa's pricing, Alcoa is they're up 2%. They're at 67 right now. But look at this. They're at 67, which is a support. 64 was a little bit better, but 67 is a good support. They were at 75. So we could definitely see Alcoa run from here. All right, let's take a look now at, I'm going to bring back my chart. Let's see what the S&P is doing. The S&P is off now only 0.25%. It's really trying its way to come back. Let's go back to the big chart and see what the big chart looks like. And so on my big chart, I see that the VIX is holding at a little bit under 19. Gold is at 48.40. Silver's at $80. Bitcoin's 75,000 flat. Solana's at 85. Last week, Solana was at 90. And, this is a nice pullback. Okay, so we have copper at 6.06. It's off about 1%. And the Russell's only down 0.25%. Everything has started to recover. The Dow is now up slightly. So that's what we can look for the day. We're looking for perhaps a slightly up day, and we can see how that works. Right now I have the VIX at 1894, coming down a little bit. Netflix is basically flat for the day. We do have little movement in some of the positions that we bought a couple last week, rather. Ondas is trying to do a little dance. It's still under $10 and holding under $10. ABTC, I picked it up last week for about $1.20. It's at $1.30 now. Looks like a good one. Clear Security, that's also doing well. They're up 1.25%. Verizon is flat for the day. I told you to buy it last week. Kroger is up. ACI is up. Netflix is up slightly. The VIX position is flat. The GFL position that we bought last week is slightly up today, but we're down 1% on that position. Really not terrible, all things considered. So we're holding pretty good. And we looked at some of the buys that we have. I'm going to look for some more buys. Grab Holdings has been such a disappointment. It's just sitting there at $4 or whatever it is. And it just has not gone anywhere. I've been looking for it to go somewhere, but it has not. The Dow is softening just a little bit. It's back below the open positivity. We're back at third down. The VIX is still holding. Oil is still holding. Natural gas. Everything is kind of where it was. So we have an opportunity to take this time now and just continue to look at the market and perhaps a couple of other things that we should take a look at for our index. So now, let me bring up my browser and you can see. So we were looking at SpaceX, has this IPO coming out, and we expect space to be very exciting, lots of money potential to be made there. But because of the IPO, it's going to generate additional excitement in the industry. And Morgan Stanley put together a list of stocks that you should look at when you want to look at space. So we have raw materials, right? Like we talked earlier about MP Materials or Alcoa. We talked about Freeport McMoran for copper. There's Tech Resources. All of these are important for raw materials, and it's not just space, right? So copper and aluminum, gold, they're all needed, and they're used in various industries, not just space. So those are good buys, I would say. Now, if we look at other components, these are going to get into more specific areas, whether they're specialty materials, components, or propulsion systems. I'm not as familiar with some of them, but we can look at them, right? Like Honeywell, which is a component system, we know them, right? Honeywell is a huge company. It's not just your thermostats that they make all sorts of controls. On the semiconductor side and the electronics side, we look at STM. Well, we can look at Broadcom, COHR, and NVIDIA. Those are all hot, so we can add these kind of stocks to our lists. The launch systems, we're going to look at some of the big companies that we already know, like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon. Now, every time they shoot a missile in the war, Raytheon's got to replace it, right? So I think we should see Raytheon continue to do well. Boeing, Rocket Lab, all of these spacecraft launch systems, we're pretty much familiar with that. And then you have the operators, including Amazon, right? They run Amazon Web Services, and so there's a lot of computational power there. There's ASTS Mobile. They're launching this small disposable satellites. There's Black Sky. There's a lot of these little companies that are very interesting that we should have as well on our watch list. Now, this is an interesting post that I found. It had a list of names, and I think we should kind of look through some of these names. These are not related to AI whatsoever, and they do present the possibility of having like really good long-term growth because they are sort of AI proof, so to speak. I will see. Let's bring up a chart and then and look at it side by side and see what that looks like. I'm going to bring this actually a little bit to the side here so that I can bring up, maybe I can bring up a chart. Okay, cool. I got a chart. Let me move this here. Okay. And let's pull that there. Okay, cool. So now we have waste management, UNP. Let's take a look at waste management. Waste management's at 224. They're basically flat today. Wow, this is a pretty good entry. I would say waste management entering in at 220 would be ideal. And then they should continue going on up from there. So waste management is actually an interesting buy. I'm going to add that to our list today of what to keep an eye on. That's pretty crazy. I did not expect to see waste management as a good play. AMT. I bought AMT. I had liked it. I had made a recommendation. We're doing well on the position. It's on its recovery. It's flat today. I'm not necessarily going to say this is the best entry because it already moved just slightly, but I think this is a very good entry. I would like to get in below 180 and look for, $200 or higher on AMT. And they also pay a dividend, which they just paid out. So let's take a look at FICO. Like, your FICO score. FICO is down. They're at 1046 or something like that. Now they've been challenged because different information providers are out there, and it's kind of a little scary. And I think you have the same thing with Moody's, where they also pulled back. And I like their support at closer to 430. They're at 450 right now, with, let's say, a target of about 500 on Moody's. So we have about 10% to go on Moody's, but it's just a little scary. So I'm not 100% sure about that. On the other hand, let's talk about United Health. United Health is off about 0.25%, 0.5% today. They're at a resistance level of 325. That's their resistance level. They have to get over that to get to the next level of 370. But that does mean it has a good potential for it to fall back to 285, 290. So we want to be cautious about United Healthcare. I'm not sure if I'm buying it here. I have one share for my son, but I think United Healthcare is a good long-term investment. I'm just not ready to buy it here. Let's look at Next Extra Energy, because I believe they're a Florida-based energy company. They're doing well. They're at 92.5. They're up 0.5% today, and I would say they have room to grow and continue. You can see on my chart, channels 2 and 3 are targeting about 10% higher, so there is more room for it on the daily. That's Next Extra Energy. A little about Visa. So Visa is a primary debt holder. Right now, they're off about 0.5% today. I would like to get in closer to 300. They have earnings coming up in a few days, so want to just be cautious about playing with them on an entry. But it does look tempting, right? If I zoom out on the weekly for Visa, this looks like they're trying to reclaim their trend line. They're below the trend line. They had a nice big dip. This is a crazy dip. Like, you should have bought it at 300. And this is the top of the range, that 322. So that 20-point range is kind of what Visa normally does. I don't think Visa's going out of business. It is a little scary because there's room for it to go down. They're at 315 right now. I would like to get in closer to that 300 level. But I don't want it to continue going down. So if I zoom into the 1 hour and I look at Visa, it has a strong trend. It took off of that 300 line. Maybe it comes back to 310, maybe. If it doesn't hold this 315. But you can start nibbling, like buy one share or something like that, and just get your feet wet. Costco is like a crazy one. I had Costco, I sold Costco, I bought Costco. I like Costco long term. Whenever you see Costco under 1,000, Costco is a buy. Under 1,000, it's at 1,000. Not buying Costco right here, but Costco dominates the market. I mean, they just, what a great store. I would like to get them, in lower, much lower. They're going to go. Let's look at Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin's up about 0.5%. This looks like a great entry. They're at 595. Does look like support on the trend line here for the channels 2 and 3. They've got on channels 2 and 3, it's targeting like almost 30%, 25 to 30% higher on the daily. And that would be a really strong trend. If I zoom into the hourly, we should see the point of control again at 625. So that's $25 higher. I'd like to see Lockheed Martin continue. Let's take a look at Home Depot. Home Depot's off about 1% today on the hourly. You could see they're sort of coming back to some sort of support level. There's a stronger support a little bit lower at 330. We're at 345 right now. So I'm going to hold off on buying Home Depot yet, but it is interesting and we can kind of pay attention to it. So this was a really interesting list of stocks that are kind of like AI proof, right? Now, I did find another one. I thought this was interesting as well. This is like monopoly stocks, okay? These companies really corner the market in what they do. And we've mentioned some of the names already: ASML, Taiwan Semi, Microsoft, Google, Visa, Moody's, the S&P, Adobe, ISRG, and Axon. Axon, they make those cameras for like the cops. There's no one else making them. So if you see Axon pull back, it's not actually the worst thing to buy. Long term, that's Axon. Axon's at 400. I don't know. That's a lot of money for a camera, but they had a big tear up. They were at like 900 at one point last year. I think that was a little bit of market exuberance. And if I'm going to clear this chart, just clear this drawing chart, and you zoom out a little bit, it's not without the realm of exception to create these channels and say, hey, this is about where the price should be. And this is that trend line over several years before it jumped over. Let's make that a little bit bigger and more clear so we see exactly where we're going. And you could see that purple trend line would be the appropriate trend line, all things considered, since 21. We jumped over really high there. So now I would target for the end of next year, maybe 550 on Axon, just based on this chart. Zooming into the daily, we are below where we should be, 400, and definitely targeting this 550 in the next soon, right? Look at that, like June. Forget about when I'm saying next year. We're pointing all the way up there. So Axon does look like a good buy, and I might consider adding Axon to our list. Take a look at another one. ISRG. ISRG is very interesting. I remember ISRG as a kid. My stepfather is a surgeon, retired, and he would talk about intuitive surgical robots. ISRG is at 469 right now. They have a point of control at 480. They're underneath their daily trend line, or they just are touching it now. They have earnings. When are their earnings? Their earnings are after market tomorrow. Interesting play. I think ISRG has the potential to really reverse out of here. So let's add ISRG to one of our trading portfolios. I'm not such a huge fan of Adobe, but Adobe is on this list. It got beat up. It was at 420. It's now at 250. It's up 2% today. It looks like it has potential to run, but not today. Let's take a look at Google, because Google is just always a good time. They're up pretty high. They're off 1% today. And let's take a look at ASML. ASML is off a 3% today. They're doing pretty well, but again, they're high. Let's look at Taiwan Semi. Taiwan Semi is off 1% today. Again, they're just high, and I think these things need time to go sideways before they're going to be able to make their next move up. So the Dow again is flat. The others are down about 0.25%. The VIX is holding at 1895. Oil is at 86. Natural gas is at $2.67. So you can see that we're up for about 4% on oil for the day, but we really haven't jumped this morning yet. Let's take a look a little bit more closely at the opening range for the day and see how that's going. I'm going to maximize this is the Russell, and this is the 30-minute chart. You could see that we opened and we went up. We ran into this resistance level at the kind of like a point of value, and we're backing off on it now. Let's take a look a little closer at the S&P as well. So again, we can see on the S&P, very similar in the last 30 minutes. Let's look at the 5-minute chart. So we're in the process. We set the range for the day. You could see the range is really between, on the S&P, between 71.43 and 71.54. It's a 20-point range. That's pretty tight. Let's take a look at what that looks like on SPY. So on SPY, remember I said if it falls below 707, then it's a short day. But if it holds above here, we could see it continue to run. So we might see recovery, and look at this, like looks like a bowl. So let's see, if we pull back to 708.5, maybe enter, if we see it then turn around. But right now it doesn't look like a very strong move off the opening line. We're going to go back and convert this back to our S&P, convert this back to the 30-minute view, and restore ourselves so that it looks like everything else on the big board. The next thing that we're going to do is let's take a look at one of our other charts. We're going to look at the big chart now. Bring it over here. Make that your focus. Did it work? No. We're just kind of like hiding. Let's hide some stuff so that you only see what I need you to see. Pull up SPY. Go to the 5-minute. And on the 5-minute, we're at the top of the opening range. So you can see the range today, using the first 5 minutes of the day, really has been tight on SPY. It's been between 709.14 on the top and 708.44 on the bottom. We're not in any sort of trading place yet, so nothing to do. Just kind of sit here and watch to see what happens in the market. Let's look at the Qs. So on the Qs, we have 647. Again, we're inside that opening range. We didn't break out. If we look at the 1-minute chart, we're so in this opening range. We're at the bottom of this little trend line. Maybe we continue from here. You know, that's a possibility, but right now we did not break out yet. All right, let's go back to SPY. I wonder if my buddy Sean is trading today. He's trading his SPY. Let's see. Do you have anything else good to look at on the market that I can share with you? All right, look at that. SPY just jumped up over the opening range on the 1-minute. It's looking positive, and that is a good thing for the day. So we have a small position in Kroger, a couple shares, and that's up 1/3% today. We're gonna look for it. We're looking for Kroger to hit like 72, which would be another couple dollars. It's not a big position, so we're not looking to make big money, but we're already up almost 3% on the position, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, is just make these little moves. Sometimes we're looking for the big moves, right? But sometimes we're also just looking for little moves. Okay, this is interesting. Gevo, I don't know what Gevo is, but they just came up on one of my scans. They have a price target of $3.50, so it's a cheapy stock, and they fell all the way hard to $1.70. So this is I don't know anything about this company. Uh, they're an energy company. They're down 14% on the 16th. So last week they were down really hard. I don't know why. I'm looking to see. Um, they withdrew a financing application with the Department of Energy, and that's what's pulling their shares down. So it must be a smaller business, and it's, I think, based in North Dakota. So UBS, even last year, they had a price target of like 2.25. So I think it has potential for more room. It's just a question of like, will it get there? But this might be like a really interesting like buy. Just you never know with something like this. It could have the potential to make you some money. So I would consider buying some. Let's buy some here and just see what happens, and give it a day, right? Um, so that just came out, Gevo, and we're gonna try playing with that as well. Um, the VIX is pulling back, so if you had some concerns about the market's direction today, that's giving you some indication that the market's going to continue. Let's see what Tesla is doing. Tesla's off about 1% today. Interesting. They're at 396. They're at the bottom of their value area. They're right. I don't know if you're looking at the chart, then you can see that they are like basically touching that orange box that I have over there, and that's indicating that that there's the value area gap. So you don't want it to go below. Let's say you don't want it to go below 390, 390 would be like, that would be bad if it pulls back another 1%. But if it doesn't, if it holds here today, then we should be good. Okay. So just looking at our watch list, remember ASTS Mobile, they pulled back 14% earlier. They're only down 10% now, only 10%, right? On the 5 minute, and they're going to recover from here. I have no doubt that these guys are going to recover from here, and I think this is a buy. I think you can actually. I think you could buy calls on ASTS. It's just expensive, but like you could buy perhaps a June call at the money and then sell something like really far out of the money, maybe like a 20%, and try to just capture that. Or you could just sell the open call, but that's a little scarier. But I think ASTS Mobile, they're totally oversold, and it does look like a good opportunity. CoreWeave is down significantly today, and LEU is down significantly, also a couple percent. So a couple of these companies are presenting opportunities for us to buy long term on these positions. And if you got some cash, it might be something to pick up a couple shares. Wow, ONDS is up 4% today. They're at 10.5 now. Remember I said buy it below buy it below the $10 number, and they're back up over $10. Nexa, which we mentioned earlier, is also up. ISRG is up. IonQ, Axon, these are all up. So we have a few names that are up on our list. Mm, okay. What else should we look at today? Um, hmm. ARC. ServiceNow is up 3% today. Let's take a look at ServiceNow. They're at 100. Wow, look at that move. Almost 4% up. That's great. The ServiceNow should be higher than it is. So I'm not surprised. AbbVie is off a little bit today. Akamai is up. Oscar is trading up. Taiwan's TSEM is actually down about 3% today. That's Tower. They're really high. That's why. Fly is up 4% today. And this is one of those space stocks. So that's why I see them moving up. I'm surprised that ASTS is down and Fly is up, but, you know, it happens. Let's go back to Nexa. We're at 16. Oh, man, just looks like it jumped so hard. I don't know. Wow, ONDS. I don't know what's going on with ONDS, but they're up now 6.5% at $10.60. There's something going on because they just made like a major move. Okay. IonQ. Yep, we're holding up. All right, so it looks like today might be a buying opportunity for certain things. ASTS Mobile is down 8%. CoreWeave's off 2.5%. LEU is off 2%. And these are some names that I mentioned that we want to buy. So there are some buy lists, some things on our buy list today. Go shopping. It's a little bit of retail therapy. That's fun. Okay. What else do we want to take a look at? Let me see if I have anything else that came up on my scanner this morning. Nope, just that Gevo came up. Gevo is up 2% today so far. So let's see how that position's doing. That position is already up about 1.5%. The VIX position I have is basically flat. And that's about it I have right now. So basically, we're okay today. Our positions are moving up, so that's a good thing. And we're going to, I can't believe this Ondas, that like how it moved so much. We're at 10.5 right now. We are targeting at least 12 on Ondas, so I'm not selling it yet. But I do like seeing this movement, and I don't know what's causing it. So let's see. There's they got a $10 million initial order. And that's what's happening today. They got an order. So I don't know. Part of me just wants to take profit and then like go back in, you know? So I think I'm gonna do that. I don't really know. I feel like they just like jumped the shark kind of thing, too little too hard. Let's see. What does it look like in the hourly? They're running into resistance at 1086. So yeah, it looks like it's going. Let's 1066. Let's put in a let's take profit. Let's just take profit on our position. So all right, cool. We closed the position, took some profit. That's not really a bad thing, is it? Sometimes it's not that it's not going to continue going. It'll continue going probably. It's just that, you know, we we need, we need to take some money out sometimes, pay ourselves. You have to. There's a trader, Ragi, and she says you have to pay yourself when you can, not when you have to, and it's good advice generally, right? So you pay yourself when you have some profit, take a little bit of money off, and keep it moving, right? Like have price targets for where you want to be, but let's see, Albertsons supermarket, they should move. They're not moving yet. Neither is Kroger supermarkets. Netflix is down today. I don't know why. I was watching enough Netflix this weekend. They really should be doing well. So they missed some sort of earnings, and that's why they're down today, 1.5%. But New Street actually raised their price target to 102 from 96. Oppenheimer has them at 120. So they definitely have room to come back. It's just a matter of time. All right. So Ondas is continuing to run. I don't mind. I took a little profit. I could use a little bit of buffer in my account, have some cash, right? And let's see. Maybe I close out. What do we think we close out this U position? I got about a month left on this contract. And yeah, U is continuing to run. Their price target, what is it? They're at 55 already. And Davidson announced their price target at 65. Wow. So they really have room to run. This could continue. Shocked, I tell you. Shocked. Let's see you continue to run. But for now, I'm just going to leave you. leave you. Verizon's up today. What's Verizon up? They're basically flat, but, a little bit up. And that's all I have to look at right now. It's 10:10 a.m. I will get back to you later. I'm going to take a little break. My throat hurts. I'm a little dry. I'm parched. I need some coffee. And then we'll have some more fun. Maybe a little bit later in the afternoon. I'm considering adding in an afternoon show. I don't know if it's of interest to you, but if it is, drop a comment, let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Greatly appreciate the attention and time. And let's see if we can't make some money together on a continual basis, helping each other. And yeah, that's really it. Like we just have to help each other, guys. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.